So thank you very much for kind and nice introduction, Komalji.
Thank you, sir.
My respects to Professor K.S. Dhimanji, former Director General CCRAs, and the present professor in Institute of Medical Sciences, BHU. And I also extend my thanks to Dr. Surendra Chaudhary ji and other members like Rabi Narayan ji, Yogesh Mishra ji, and so many other people. Indeed, last week I was at Chandigarh in Vishwa Ayurveda Parishad program where I was mentioning. And again, Premanand last week called me also. He said, you will be speaking in the regional language also on the same topic. I said, Surendra Chaudhary ji ko jaban de diya. So it may be tough. He said, no problem. We will again take you the southern this thing also. So I'm glad I'm part of this debate. I really do not know where to start and where to end because it's a vast subject. So during my presentation, I have a PPT I'll be sharing with you. Uh, Hope I'm visible. My screen is
Yes,
visible.
yes, sir. Just make it on a slideshow.
Yeah, yeah, I'm doing it. So as I mentioned, it is little tough where to start and where to end, but I try to. The topic given to me is the drug research in Ayurveda, priorities, methodologies, and applicability. I try to do all of them to the best possible extent. Uh, when it comes to this debate, many times we keep debating, but COVID made me to have the middle path or the win-win situation where many times we have the same parlance, only we could not understand each other. It's like I speak in Telugu, my own language, and you speak in Hindi, which I don't know. To a larger extent, it is what is happening whenever we discuss various aspects related to Ayurveda or modern medicine versus any other Indian science. Like Graha is not a Bhuta. And many times Graha Vidya, Bhuta Vidya, they have been interpreted in its own way. So Graha may not be planet because Graha for me also seven. If you talk about planet, they are seven. If you talk about Graha, they are nine. Like you have the shadows. So similar approach we need to adapt. That's called the technology transfer. Many times the deficiency between two groups is technology transfer deficiency. We are not doing the technology transfer properly because we do not have a methodology through which the methods are properly identified prior to selection of methodology. So probably that's what I try to enumerate, and I try to keep myself little away from drug, though I touch it, because again I'll spend more time. So today purposely I'm trying to avoid the drug, that preclinical part, and I want to discuss more on the clinical part, which is going to help the audience of Vishwa Ayurveda Parishad. But if you look at the ancient wisdom versus modern science, let us understand, friends, what Ayurveda said, yoga tapibisham tikshnam uttamam bhejam bhavet, bhejam japidudyuktam tikshnam sampachade visham. This is in the first chapter of Charak Sutra Sthana. So your best medicine can become poisonous if it is indiscriminately used, or the worst poison, the dirty poison can become the best medicine. The same thing is there in the modern pharmacology, which is part and parcel of pharmacognosy. If you read the definition of pharmacognosy, this is actually the science which talks about it is the doctrine of drugs and poisons. So it says everything is poison, nothing is deprived of virulence, and everything is a medicine. Only a dose makes a substance either a poison or a drug. See how beautiful coincidence it is. Okay, sometime down the line, people have accepted that your yoga the Vikshamteshna concept is contextual even at the 15th century. Then if you look at what is the kind of the research you are looking at by definition, research should always have a philosophy, and it should have a validity and reliability, and it should have an unbiased approach and some specific objective. Having the three aspects together is essential for any activity to be called as research. Therefore, many times calling it as re-search, that may be for a common man, but for a scientist, that's why today, please remember, your ultimate research is PhD. Nobody changes your doctor of philosophy. So, a science which is called as research, which is emerged through a research process, should have a philosophy of its own. That's where any science, including Ayurveda, can survive ages. Only the question is whether Ayurveda advocates research. Many times that's what comes to our mind. But I have several references. I quote only two here. Prajnam Chikitsartham Vishodhyet. So there is a purpose way today I am going more towards clinicals. You have prajna, you have expertise, you have wisdom, but what for you have to revalidate or improve it chikitsartham. So chikitsa is the ultimate process which has been accepted by the acharyas. So for which you have to improve, and you have to what you call revalidate, and you have to visishta sodhana. Then pariksha karano hi kushala bhavanti. So he was saying you are knowledgeable, but if you keep on probing and investigating, that's why investigators, that's what I want to say, your researchers and investigators, principal investigator, what we say, principal researcher nahi bolte. Probably they have taken a leave from us. We have not realized it. For next time onwards, friends, let us tell this to Western medicine, that the investigators, parikshakarano hi kushla bhavanti. So those who investigate, I will give them masters. So we have accepted. There is nothing what we say wrong or against the present process of revalidating. When it comes to the term of R&D, research and development, mostly we do replication and duplication. We copy it. We do the mostly the literature research to copy off of our work and produce it as a duplicate than doing original research. This is the first impediment what we have mentally. The mental impediments are more than the physical impediments in research. This is something which you have to do. So the first model where we look at the primary function of an R&D group is to develop new products. And the second model is primary function of an R&D group is to discover. So these are two different things. The drug discovery groups and drug development groups, there is little difference, like invention and discovery. So it's like that. Then this is the R&D cycle usually which you come across. You can synthesize theoretically, you can propose and hypothesis, then design, develop, implement, and then comes your proof of effectiveness and all. So there are three main branches of research. I'm trying to reduce the origin. Otherwise, we have multiple classifications to fit to our context of Ayurveda, the fundamental research, drug research, and clinical research. Let us make it very simple. Therefore, life will be simple. Otherwise, we keep on debating whether you want to call it as applied research and so on and so forth. So I don't want to confuse anybody. I want to come straight to the central aspect, the drug research. Again, drug research to an extent depends upon the clinical research as well. When we discuss, you'll come to know. Clinical research mostly becomes part and parcel of drug research at one point of time, but clinical research may not have vice versa. So therefore, it's a pivot. Drug research stands in the middle. So what kind of drug research you find in ancient India? Friends, have you noticed? We have taken almost the same kind of time. There is some noise. 6,000 years down the line, what we have are 4,000 years down the line, what we have, 1,000 herbs hardly. So we were taking approximately uh, 4 to 5 years for the development of a herb, though we have the leads from the folklore medicine. अजप औषधीय नामरूपाभ्याम जायते हजपावने उपास्यैव गोपाश्च चान्य वनचारिणः. That's what Charaka said. But he said, न नामरूपज्ञानमात्रेण रूपज्ञानेन वा पुनः औषधीनां परां प्राप्तिं कश्चित् वेदितुमर्हति. There was a question mark. योगविन्नामरूपज्ञस्तासां तत्त्वविदुच्यते. So the Tattvavit is ultimate, that is your Parikshagarina, ultimately should have the Tattvavit status. So to get into that status, we need a lot of probing, lot of trials, and they were doing it. And same is the case Shushruta, where Gopala Tapasa Vyadha. So when he mentioned, and here he also mentioned about Vanacharina. Today we have Forest Dwellers Act when it comes to the collection of your raw material. So you have a base. You have to tell this to people. And of course, recently the biodiversity authorities we mentioned the same, and we said all the documented Ayurveda knowledge to be exempted from your ABS, and they have agreed. When the amendment comes, we'll see. But what I want to say, everything was not accepted. Today, recently, when I was in the drug policy section, there was a case from Andhra Pradesh where a folk claim all of a sudden emerged as a what you call sensational news, and my goodness, I have to I opted out of 3 4 Ayurveda groups to handle this headache. All of a sudden, the folklore game has become Ayurveda claim, and nobody was in a position to tell me why in Corona you give Anjana. It is there in some context, it's fine. Why in Corona? Have you done any study? There was no single study anywhere in the world, not only inside India, outside. Somebody was practicing and just blindly we are adopting. Let us not do that. Let us validate it. And neither I criticized nor I went against. We have done some preliminary study and we said that there is no significant difference between the treated and non-treated. The seriously treated people, there is no evidence. So therefore, it requires further study. That's how the four claims, when you want to make it as a textual claim or classical claim, we should take this particular context of Ayurveda as the base. Ayurveda did not accept. That's why FRLHD documented 8,000, even TKDL documented 8,000 herbs. Friends, we have 1178 herbs only among all the systems together, and if you take Ayurveda alone, less than 1,000. Therefore, recently I prepared the list and I submitted also. We prepared comprehensive report of all the compendia. So we need some constraint when we want to take an folklore claim as a textual claim. So we have shown. For that, some methodology was given. I discussed that. So how they were developing the drugs. So if you look at the current drug research in Ayurveda, you take any institutes, the national research institutes or any education institutes, like we look at crude drug authentication right from the field of collection. We look at the quality evaluation and the mechanism parameters. Then we do the process validation for classical preparations. Then we look at the modern dosage forms. Many times, your Gutica has become tablet without knowing whether the tablet and Gutica have the same disintegration time. We usually blindly accept both as same. Something where we need to show some constraints because the Drugs and Cosmetics Act under 168 has allowed excipients, and we are adding excipients. So it has become a modern dosage form, and we need to have a lot of study before accepting this equal. Like even your Aragyavardhani is just going to be in the form of Modak, if you ask me. Mandala Savitashacha Rajakola Pramanataha. So that's this thing. So when I enumerated, there are 320, 30 milligrams of single batch, which is given to Mandala 40 days at 8 grams. So your Rajakola is somewhere between Kola and Karsha of Magadamana. So Rajakola is in Kadingamana. It is not in Magadamana. So if you don't do that kind of interpretation and transform the context into this thing, it's a problem. Now, nobody is giving Arogyavardhani Ras in 8 grams dose. Even a single dose or a divided dose. That's what text mentioned. It's not mine. If you open the Kushta Prakarana of Rasa Samuchaya, this is what is mentioned, and none of us, let us accept this truth. So we will be committing a big blunder, big mistake of our lifetime when we compare. So we should be very careful. Even Brodba Chintamani, Valla Pramana. Where are we using Valla Pramana? I have not seen any tablet of any company or any Vaidya which is Valla Pramana. Valla Trigunjonmitam. So that's the kind of mistake we are doing. Either the dosage form or the this thing. So these things, if we are not going to focus and just we take only the modern route, we are going to be a blunder, as rightly mentioned by Dhimanji. The transformation or the translational research should have a lot of checks in place, and then only it should be allowed, and it should be tailor-made. I will give one of the examples of Anutela recently what we have done, and you will appreciate the new herbal combinations. This is another headache. You just take, I have collected about 106 market samples of diabetes, anti-diabetic products. Oh my goodness, there is no classical approach. Can you show me Gudamar in any Ayurvedic classical text? I am not talking about 16th, 17th century. Prior to 17th century, somebody should show me, because Bhavaprakash Nigantu, it is mentioned as just Shrungika for the first time. Now, a 90% of the formulations will have Gymnema sylvestre as the ingredient. My goodness. So how do we justify? And in contrary, there is a regular ingredient in the classical text. More than 87% of 29 classical formulations are regularly prescribed and published. They have 87% formulations have Kutki. And in the market, only two formulations of 106 have Kutki. So we do not have any knowledge, or we are not having any focus. We may be having knowledge, but we ignore. That's another big problem. So when we make combinations, we should be very careful. Why it is so? Why they have given specific combinations? Why they have avoided specific combinations? Some of the combinations Triphala and either Harad or either Amalaki separately. What do they mean? Instead of adding Triphala, what we do, we take Harad and Bahada and we add the other one in double quantity or something like that. That again needs to be checked, because mixture and compound, they have different things. When Dhimanji knows, when I was in industry and then we took Aish 82, the four ingredients together extracted have different chemistry. Four ingredients extracted differently and added together and tried. The biological activity, when they have been mixed and extracted together, has come down by 40% to 60%. That means at around 50% reduction in the biological activity. Just imagine what kind of hell we are creating if we are not doing the technology transfer properly. Then the process transfers. The process transfer must be easy. You can't simply take your oxalate apparatus and extract when you have an open pan extraction. We fundamentally miss the concept of Ayurveda. We are not doing the technology transfer properly. What is Kwatha? Very simple. Abhidhane muke patre jalam durjalatam rajat tasmad avaranyam tyakva kwadhadinam vinishchayah. So if you have a lid, it is not Kwadha. It retains the volatile oils. Kwadha essentially should be devoid of essential oils. Therefore, probably at a later period, Arka has become another dosage form where volatile oils were retained. That's the beauty. So we have to have the process transfers properly. And I've done a study. I will share it with you. Like Broth Panchmula, I've taken Broth Panchmula, I've taken a soxalate, I've taken just a vessel and just a boil, I've taken a percolator. And then at the end of the process, when I try to study, I stopped at the same time. I fixed about 2.5 hours time, and then took all the three samples. And when I studied their total solids, my goodness, that there is about a soxalate, there is an increase. by about 60-70% compared to the classical process. So I realized in the classical process, you'll be wasting a lot of material because you don't have an agitator. Just even if you mix also, you make by hand, and sometimes you may not be if the volume is huge. So your extractor based extracts and your traditional method of extracts are different. So establish the total solids. It will be 30 to 35. That's it. The total solids concentration, TSS, is that. So take a small refractometer and then you can assess. So you don't require rocket science to find out. Maybe plus or minus 2% variation, you can establish this. Are we doing it? We are simply taking, and therefore, when you make a kada and you go for aswarista, your aswarista fermentation may be different when you don't follow the textual process. So process transfers, safety efficacy evaluation. Safety efficacy evaluation should be as per the process given in the text. So for that design a model, I will discuss on that separately, and product dossier preparation and then the registration. That's how the drug research concludes. So if you look at the drug development process in modern pharmacology, the pharmaceutical industry, it's just like a synthesis, whether it is a synthetic product or a herbal product or a chemical product. They look at the animal studies, and prior to that, they have a laboratory process where they understand the safety efficacy of this product, and then they will take it to the phase one clinical study where safety is the first parameter. Then they go for the phase two where just 100 or less than 100 subjects in a single center, they find out whether the effectiveness is established or not. Then they will take the multi-centric trial, that is phase three, and then that particular drug is ready after looking at it in the arts, and regulatory reviews will be there. Like in your case, it is drug classification chapter 4 comes in the picture, and then marketing. So that's phase 4, where you do it and do the pharmacovigilance. Okay, and then today I want to simplify. I don't want to complicate things. So let us understand the Ayurvedic drug development process in two stages, simple stages: preclinical and clinical. Preclinical, in vitro and in vivo studies, that is when you have cell line studies, or when you have animal study, which is intact animal where you have done some experiments. Then clinical studies, they may happen pre-marketing. Usually they are phase 1 to phase 3, and post-marketing, when it's post-marketing surveillance. That's how it will be. Then before entering it, you have given a big challenge to me today. So that's how I felt it. For a teacher, it may be easy. I'm not a teacher, therefore not a regular teacher. Therefore, I would like to give my kind of interpretation on the research method and methodology. Okay. So I want to understand it simply. These are various means by which you conduct a research. Like when you wanted to conduct a research on a particular herb, you will decide whether you want to do an experiment, or you want to test something, or you want to do simple survey or something like that. A broader kind of approach, what you adopt, that is the method which you have to pick up. Then once you pick up, okay, you will do animal experimentation on anti-diabetic drug. Then the systematic approach towards solving the research problem. That means you want to understand whether the drug is really going to have an anti-diabetic property or not. Then you will select, okay, whether you want to select a genetically diabetic rat, or you want to select these Japanese mice, which basically is a juvenile mice, which really is not genetically diabetic, but it is used as type 1 model. Whether you want to use it, or you have a Aloxin-induced model. The Aloxin-induced model, usually they have a selective destruction of your pancreatic beta cells. So you have a specific approach, whether your given drug is doing the pancreatic regeneration or not, or stimulating the insulin secretion. Like for example, epicatechin, which is present in your bijaka, your pterocarpus, is known. for pancreatic beta cell regeneration. Even I have done this study when I was consultant to one of the pharmacists in Chennai out of my curiosity way back when I was with CGHS. I was involved with a lot of this kind of people. And in one of the labs, when we have studied, we found there is significant regeneration capacity, and which modern science may not accept, but it is a fact. And afterwards, this study was published by the father of diabetology in India, Professor Shashaya from Chennai. And then Dr. Sundaram, who is his disciple, is taken forward and they published through ICMR. And people have started accepting the theory, okay, pancreatic beta cell regeneration happens. Friends, this is a real contribution of Ayurveda in the field of diabetes research. We are not highlighting this. See, we are trying to compete with the so-called insulin therapies and the other things. They're really highlighting what we have with us. So why don't we do this? This is something which is really going to help us. I'll give another example. Now, we have Stula Pramehi Balavani Balasa Sambhaman Santosham Dosa Banadikasya. We read रट्टा मार के मैं 40 साल पहले रट्टा मारा था तो अभी भी वही चल रहा है मेरे लिए सेंटिमेंट से ज़्यादा साइंस से क्लोज आएंगे तो और मज़ा आएगा तो इसमें अगर देखेंगे वात व्याधि और आपकी ये मधुमेह नाट प्रमेह मधुमेह हैव सिमिलर संप्राप्ति इसीलिए आपको पूरे प्रमेह या मधुमेह में किसी भी किताब में वात रोग इज नॉट mentioned as a lakshan pururup roop or your upadrav or arista because they were sharing the common samprapti in Vatakala Kalaya chapter in the Sutra Sthana why Charak mentioned about madhumeha samprapti. So that's the beauty. So from there he started, and this has been adopted as part and parcel of Madhumeha in the Madhumeha Chikitsa context by Vagbhata. And then it has come into the text of Madhavanidhana. Very good. In the process, we have forgotten one. Why in Vatakala Kali chapter Madhumeha? That's the connecting link which we are missing. The translational research should happen this way. Okay, please don't look at my slides alone. I wanted to give these inputs because I understood a lot of researchers have joined today, and I'm looking at my next generation who will definitely contribute. And to learn all these things, I spoiled about 35 years of time. Therefore, I can give at least half of the time for my next generation, where they can go in the right direction and proper direction without sacrificing your fundamental principles. Okay, now you have Tikta Pradhana anti-diabetics. Let me say that. I beg the pardon of the audience, but just for example, Tikta Pradhana anti-diabetics and Kashaya Pradhana anti-diabetics. So, Yada Kadira Bijako. These two are basically Kashaya Pradhana. And then Kutki and other things, they're all Tiktarasa Pradhana, even Karavelaka. But Karavelaka is Kavapittaharam Avatalam. That is the beauty. And look at Amalaki. Amalaki again, Tridosh Shamaka. Among Triphala, Haritiki and Vibhitiki, neither in the modern literature nor in the Ayurveda literature are found to be anti-diabetic. Whereas a combination with Amalaki, what else science you require to prove we have a superior approach than anybody else? These are the examples we have to quote. Then fighting with them on whether to prescribe Ayurveda and allopathy together or whether to have a drug exemption or not. So they don't help us. The real help comes from a different platform. So when you have added amla to Harad and Bhada, Triphala has become anti-diabetic. Alone, Amalaki has the anti-diabetic property. Another example, neem leaf has anti-diabetic property, but stem bark doesn't have anti-diabetic property. But most of the people who use the neem preparations for diabetes, they're all using more than 90% the formulations. They use stem bark because the volume is used. Getting leaf and powdering is a tough job. So we resorted to easiest way, but we have ignored the classical approach. So that's what I want to say here. When we look at the methods and methodology, method, it can be simple. It will, as I mentioned, this is just Nazir Ansari. The PPT is available online. Please go through. I always admired this presentation, which was presented in 2012. His entire PPT is there. It will really enlighten all of us. Then I flip rotated methodology versus method. Okay, methodology is also beginning of your experiment, and the method is the end of any scientific or non-scientific research. Okay, so you can flip rotate also. Just I wanted to tell you, you need not get confused. So the approach which you adopt, that should be clear for you. The techniques, how to conduct the research, the study about the tools of research, and explain the methods by which you may proceed with the research or this thing, and then the actual tools and steps taken by which you conduct the research is your method. Okay. So as I mentioned, the definition of methodology and all, so it explains the methods by which one may proceed, and the methods are the methods by which one conduct the research on a particular subject or topic. So this is the methodology cycle, right from your drug research, where the problem is defined and research objectives are defined, research hypothesis is generated, and research design has been made. Then sampling plan, then what are the instrumentation that is required for your pilot testing and all, data collection, and then your study and all. So this is the method cycle. I have given the methodology cycle, and this is the method cycle, and I have taken it from the previous organization. And that's how. Well, let us conclude now methods and methodology, because I am asked to speak about the methodology. I'm just trying to set the platform for you. So as Mr. Nazir defined, we can say that in simple word, methodology has many dimensions, and research methods do constitute a part of the research methodology. The scope of research methodology is wider than the research methods. That's how we interpret it. Now, what are the methods in your Ayurveda? That is more important. In Nidanasthana, I mentioned Pratigna, Stapana, Hetu, Drishtanta. Look at Drishtanta. I always admire this. Drishtantaha etra morkha vidisham drishtisamyam, buddhisamyam. Lay and learned should get the same message. That should be your example. Oh my goodness. When I read the research methodology, we use graphs, and many times we present also. Don't mistake me. I may be ignorant, and you have to excuse me. Many times we present with pie diagram, bar diagrams, line diagrams. My friends, this is for Murkha, because if you read the research methodology books, this is for the public and common man, layman. Learned should always talk about p value, t value, etc., chi-square and all. Okay, but many times we get carried away. Just on a lighter side, I'm mentioning it, but it's a serious. It has a serious connote. We also mainly depend upon the data which is meant for lay. But I feel we are following the principle of Charaka, where Drishtantha Murkha Buddhisami. Then the Siddhanta, then Samasya and Prayojana. So research outcome to be defined right from your aims and objectives, then hypotheses, tools used, and your four pramanas. I'm going to discuss about the four pramanas. Aptopadesho pramananam. So when Charak said Aptopadesho ultimate, then the modern people will start questioning. So you don't want to use the EBM tool, evidence-based medicine. You are just blindly living with the help of what you call your own belief. So those things will come, and I will rule it out. I'm going to do that also. So the Siddhanta is your thesis, and Samasya is your discussion, and then ultimately your research outcome is your conclusion. And the methodology used for this is the 10-point investigation. Karana, Karana, Karyayoni, Karya, Karyaphala, Anubandha, Desha, Kala, Pravritti, and Upaya. Okay. So in this, you can each one of them, again, if you expand, your methodologies will emerge. The modern day methodologies can be embedded in each one of them. Like instrument, I mentioned in the cycle, methodology cycle. So what are the instruments you need? Put it there. And the reasoning, what are the reasoning? For example, I mentioned about anti-diabetic. Why you are selecting a particular animal model? Because you need a particular outcome. Whether you need streptogenesis induced rat model will destroy the entire pancreatic tissue because it doesn't have selective expression of it. Uh, yeah. So these are the things which I want to mention. And then let us look at the drug research, what we are going to discuss today. I will try to just sum up. We have both Indian systems of medicine, non-Indian systems of medicine approach, because other than as we have alternative complementary alternative medicine and nutraceuticals and dietary supplements, therefore I just try to catch up with them also. Your classical and proprietary approaches where you have mineral, metal, animal derivatives and a combination. About 7 different combination permutations you will get. Then you have single plant standardized extract or polyherbal extract. All are available today. One is the OTC and the ethical promotion. And you have the other dietary supplements like Tuberpa, St. John's wort, your okay. Now this I already explained your Anumana Pratyaksha and Aptopadesha. Okay, so we will discuss it. Uh, Actually, the traditional use is very important. Uses mentioned in pharmacopoeia monographs is also important, and published research, clinical trials, observational research, and post-market surveillance data, and mostly the pharmacological studies, which include in vivo, in vitro studies, are important. The drug research probably we are depending upon shed rasas most of the times. So how are we going to justify this? We will discuss a little on this. Like Rasaguna, Virya, Vipaka, and Prabhava, the theory of probability has been used in rasa. If you take a carbohydrate, it obviously gets either into glucose or glycogen. If you take fat, it will be rather metabolized into glycerol or fatty acids, or if it is a protein, it will be amino acids. Okay, or a group of that. So it is theory of probability, and there will be exceptions. This is on Samanya Siddhanta, not on Visesh Siddhanta. Then when it comes to physical properties, today anesthesia, what we are feeling is because of the physical property. The evaporation from the nerve surface is a character which is going to decide how effective is this particular this thing. And that's one example. The other example I can quote is your osmotic diuretics. Where is the chemistry? It's only physics. You look at bulk increasing purgative, it is physics. Okay, there is no chemistry. So, a lot of physical properties have a role to play, and we can't ignore. Like in case of joint pain, why we are applying oils? Because there is ukshatva where you want to replace it. Okay, Western medicine or Oriental medicine, they have the fundamentals intact and they go. When it comes to your media, we may have to probably look at this particular administration is exothermic for a particular given substance adenothermic. Maybe we have to repeatedly do these experiments. My teacher, Dr. Nishteshwar, did some studies in Jamnagar, and he said it's inconclusive or most of them go against. But still, I want to look at in a different way through the metabolic cages where the monitoring will be much easier, and we may have to try this the way the texts have mentioned by looking at it. Then looking at Vipaka, it's much easier because Srushtabin Mutra or Bardhavin Mutra can be assessed with your metabolic cages, give the unknown drug, and find out whether the animal has excreted more urine or less urine, or more feces or less feces, and sacrifice the animal and find out what kind of effect this has on the reproductive system, male reproductive system, or prostaglandins. Because for me, many times, of course, people have to ignore me, my ignorance. Sa saptami supradha nama sa sakala sarira vyapani. So definitely it is not the semen, it should be something else. So one chemical substance which is active across the body, including your head follicles, and which helps in many physiological functions, including your pain pathway, are prostaglandins. And for female also, alpha E2 is important. Therefore, we can definitely say that for both it is common and present in almost all the tissues, and that should be the Sukradhara, the matrix which is carrying the so-called Sukra, maybe the thing, and it has a role to play in reproduction also. So the reproductive matrix is something which we should look at and find out what kind of effect this particular substance has, and you will come to know. Probably the role of Prabhava will definitely come down over a period of time because we have some reasoning available. In those days, Maninam Dharaniyanam, you may not have that kind of explanation. Today you may, because you know it's a C5 and it has some radiation and therefore the relief. So those things with the available tools these days, we can give some kind of explanation. And still, if some aspects are to be still to be explained, we'll keep them aside. And for me, the research methodology should essentially focus on Paradigunas. If you look at the synonyms of Gurvadigunas, they are called as Sharirigunas, whereas Paradigunas are called Chikitsopayogunas. This is very important in your research, whether you do clinical research or your preclinical research. Paratva paratva iktishya sankhya sanyoga eva cha vibhagan cha pratakvam cha parinamavadhat samskaroabhyas ityate gunaprokta paradayah. So, drug of choice. What is Paratva? What is the drug of choice in a given condition? What is contraindicated in a given condition, and what kind of critical analysis you have before selection of the drug, and what kind of statistics you are going to have when you take a particular number, sample size, and all those things. Okay, and then what are the combinations? Look at Samyoga. I always give this example. Abhyarishta, if it's a Sanyoga example for your Jwara Chikitsa, your Guru Sattva is Vibhaga example for same Jwara. Okay, so Vibhaga is Prutakvam. And then how do you differentiate between two drugs? For example, Kushta and Pushkar Mola. How do you differentiate between these two? Or you differentiate between one species of bala and another species of bala. So the methodologies are available with you. Only thing we have not adopted them with suitable examples. The examples are missing. The examples are there. We need to incorporate them in the activity. So that's the thing. So when you look at the thrust areas of the modern day research, you should focus on off-label indications or repurposing. This is more important in the COVID times. Friends, I want to share with you with my observation when I was in Ayush. I'm just few days old after leaving Ayush. Uh, there is a significant increase. There is a significant increase in the usage of classical formulations during COVID times. Why? Because the existing formulations were designed, one for one kind of a fever, the other one for arthritis, the other one for something else. And though they have taken classical formulation copied also, the physicians, when a new condition emerged, they have gone back to the fundamentals. Okay, somebody said this is a Vidanardhakar Roga, the Kshaya symptoms and the acute respiratory syndrome symptoms are matching, or ये जलसंतापात रक्तपित्त रक्तपित्त जलस्ताप्यम शोषसाप्योपजायते. The social symptoms and the acute respiratory symptoms are matching. So in the kapholbana, some pittaja or pittolbana kapha, sannipata jwara, something like that we have decided. We are all aware of it. And for that, when you want to give a drug, you don't have any tailor-made formulation in the market. So all the physicians have resorted to their original text. And there is a more than 35, and it is going up to 40-42% when it comes to the sales of classical formulations. Three of the major pharmacies recently we have evaluated, and we found that physicians have gone back to the roots and have used classical formulations. So that gives a lot of strength to us. Look at the off-label indications are repurposing. So you are repurposing existing formulation for new. I have here quoted Shankabhasma. Shankabhasma is not indicated in your Astivikaras. But if you look at Shankabhasma, we have filed a patent some years back, therefore I can tell you, Ace calcium carbonate is 40% more absorbable, 42% more absorbable when compared to the calcium carbonate which is available in the market. We filed a patent. Since we have just tweaked a particular step in the processing of Shankabhasma, a process product patent, and which is going to really give some impetus to your own science. So, new technologies, drug-drug interactions, a lot of drug-drug interaction studies, even Ashwagandha, we have done drug-drug interactions. It is not interacting with any of the molecules. We have done set up 450 studies, and we are now doing the PK studies in humans. And my goodness, we are unnecessarily doubting our own formulations than taking it forward. But these are the good leads, what we are going to have. So that's how the drug development should happen. So research for the development pipeline, it will be like this. Your discovery phase should have a new concept and then a proof of concept, pilot phase and scaling up. Okay, that's how you have to now make a pipeline for you. And the routine drug development process where we have different stages, right from discovery to early stage and fulfilled. This is more applicable to new herbs and development. Ayurvedic formulations may not require all these steps because you have some leads, and the clinical the candidate, which is otherwise known as interventional new drug, can get the status of new drug when it is registered. That's called the new drug application when it is going for product registration. And the drug discovery cycle, as I mentioned, will have a primary assay and secondary assay where you have in vitro study. Then it is studied through the in vivo studies. That's what I was mentioning: in vitro, in vivo, the preclinical, clinical, and post-marketing. So interventional new drug comes between preclinical and clinical. And one thing which I always mentioned is this is for the routine chemical entities. Now, Ayurveda was used, or Ayurvedic single herb or a compound formulation was used for several centuries. So it is not going to fit into the phase one definition. Friends, let us give this particular information to anyone. So they will not ask you to go through phase one clinical trial because by definition, phase one clinical trial first in human. It will be inhuman to violate the definition when this is already in human domain and it is in vogue. You can't simply go by what you have written for the modern research. So you can skip one step, and it is scientific, nothing unscientific. Only the dose is to be fixed, and this is the research cycle which I propose for your any research. Okay, so you take Ayurveda usage, you take the whole formulation, then look at the Ayurvedic therapeutics, look at the medicinal plant information, then the screening of the extracts, and if you want to do the standardization, do it, conduct clinical trials, and then you have the specific herbal remedy. Then, if you are extracting and isolating active principle, it becomes a modern drug. When you are doing some experiment, do the exploratory studies, conduct some experimental research. As I mentioned, skip the phase one and go to the phase two. It becomes a natural drug. Okay, so this is a approach adopted by Ashok Devi Vaidya, published in 2007. So the preclinical studies, as I mentioned, they are consisting of both the toxicological studies and pharmacological studies prior to the administration of a product to the human beings. And the early leads where we see the usage of animals, they may not be exactly the same, but just I have the inferences. Like when I was discussing with Dr. B. Ramarao, who was the former director Institute of History of Medicine, Hyderabad, he used to mention Jata Granthas have information about a lot of human models which were used for development of drugs, the management of new diseases. It is interesting. I wanted to explore, but I could not. But he had given this information. I'm sharing with you. Then behavior of the Mayura, Chakora, and Markata in case of poisoning. Just go to your Vakbhuta or you can write that Kalpasthana of Shusra Samhita where these animals were used, whether it's rather inhalatory toxicity you call it as, or it is the oral administration, whatever they have done all the experiments. That's my point. These are the few examples which have the beginning. I quote Kapikachu as another example. are understanding the side effect of a particular herb. Kapi kachu, pama and kachu are same. Kachu rugrahas pichoscha. If it affects the buttocks, okay, then it's called kachu. Kapinam kachu. When these monkeys, they used to sit on the branches where this creeper was twinned in the fruiting season. Probably this fruit hair, pod hair, has caused the what you call inflammation on the buttocks. So, which is known as kapikachu. That's how I always interpreted. So, they have documented. Likewise, many observations. Just I am giving few. Like when you look at symptoms of Vasanabhi, Gunja, Langali, Ahifena, Mustaka, Karavir, a lot of this thing. Ashwamara. Why Ashwamara? Because some horses have as a consumed it, or they were given along with the leaves. That's why they have died. Many things. Mustaka, the famous story of Krishna Nidhyana, speaks about the toxic effects of Mustaka. Just I wanted in Prabhas Tirtha in Gujarat, where the Krishna Nidhyana happened, it is the Mustaka which is responsible. And Ahifena, always I admired this name. Ahifena. Ahi means Sarpavisha. Fena is the bubbles. The neurotoxic effects of cobra poison are not seen completely with this particular poison. They mimic because here there is an initial excitement followed by depression. So the symptoms which you see with the minute doses of cobra poison, you see with Ahifena. Many references, just I'm quoting it. Only thing, we have to dwell into literature and we have to understand what are all the things they have in their mind. The name of Vasanabi is Visha. So they have considered this a poison. And you see the best example of usage of a poison as a drug. The 29th chapter of Rasana Samuchaya is dedicated to Vasanabi, and several Rasayanas of Vasanabi have been mentioned. We seldom go through that chapter. Several Rasayanas. We only say this is a Jwarahara, and most of the Jwarahara Dravyas will have. And we ask entrance questions, which is the formulation which doesn't have Tankana and Vasanabi formulation. But it has some meaning beyond. So my point here is we have several references and maybe we are ignoring. Same thing is the contraindications. The best example is Haritaki, where the contraindications have been given. Garbhani, Bala, Vruddha, they have been contraindicated from taking Haritaki. What else you want as science? Okay, side effects of Pipali, Lavana, Shara, and many more things. What else we want? Only thing, we have not collected at one place and we have documented, and therefore people question us. And usage of cow, where you give the leaves of masha and then collect the milk and use. Of course, it is not a direct reference, but the usage of animal. That's my point. And again, I admire the pre-digested food concept given by Charaka in Madhumeha Chikitsa. Give the food first to horse and collect it in the feces, then prepare the diet and give it to the Madhumeha Rogi. What is the context? It may look ugly to hear, but friends, what is the concept? The concept is pre-digested food. I was breeding a horse at my home in my childhood when I was about 10 to 12 years. Therefore, I know the habit. Horse does not digest the entire food. If you give a diet, any diet, 50% of it is excreted as it is. I don't know the reason, but I got the confirmation from my friend when I was working in Nizamabad in Telangana. Just backside of my dispensary used to be veterinary dispensary. And I discussed with Madhu Mali, the medical officer there, and he used to say, yes, you are right, Dr. Shastri. And now I'm interacting with animal husbandry and I'm working on the Muruga Ayurveda. So I got a lot of fascinating information, and my goodness, pre-digested food concept is there for diabetes, and that's coming from again Charak Samhita. Then I was mentioning, I will skip this. your in vivo, in vitro, where in vivo mostly the pharmacological and toxicological. People often get confused with your IC50. IC50 is effective concentration, but friends, in vivo, in vitro studies, usually we get the leads. You don't have confirmation. Don't get excited on your in vitro studies. This is something I want to say. It gives leads, it gives an inference about the mechanism of action. Nothing is confirmatory. So, whether to take the research forward or not, for which you can conduct in vitro, which is less, which is cost effective, which is less costlier. Otherwise, I want to say, therefore, people are resorting to in vitro. But more than 90% of these in vitro studies are non-confirmatory. They are only indicative. So don't get carried away with the in vitro alone, whether positive or negative. Then the type of toxicity studies, single dose toxicity, acute toxicities, and your repeated dose toxicities, and subacute and chronic toxicities, local toxicities. OECD guidelines are the guidelines mostly followed. OECD 423 is major guideline which we follow. And allergens, these are special toxicities. Wherever you require special toxicities, and if you are using any topical substance or eye drops, first of all, you do the irritation test, mucosal irritation test, skin irritation test, and so on and so forth. So, through these studies, sometimes, as I mentioned, IC50 and all, you may sometimes get dosage level, or through in vivo studies also we get the dosage levels. Usually, a product is considered to be safe when you have given a single dose or repeated dose acute toxicity study for 7 days, or single dose toxicity 1 day. You give about 5 to 10 times dose than the human dose divided by the animal dose, and you will come to know. So, as a thumb rule, it may not be a hard and fast. As a thumb rule, 2000 milligrams per kg body weight. Once a particular herb or herbal extract or any intervention is found to be safe in your animal toxicity, mostly they are considered to be safe. Okay. It is not hard and fast, but mostly. Even I have seen, I'll give my experience. I was working on Anacyclus pyrethrum, and I filed a patent. Still, it is pending. But when I've done the extraction, I've done extract of the aqueous extract, hydroalcoholic extract, and alcohol extract. I was excited to see the effect of alcohol extract, and in the first experiments at Bayatmeta Research Foundation in Chennai, Professor Venkatraman was doing this study. He had routinely given instead of when I said alcohol extract, he said Dr. Shastri, it will usually much biologically active than your water. So I used only 1/4. He started at 500 milligrams. And next day he said, Dr. Shastri, I have to repeat the experiment because all the animals have died. So I will repeat that. It seems there is an infection in the lab. So he fumigated, and again he conducted, and all the animals have died. And then he came to know that animals have died because of the drug, not because of any infection. Then it reduced to 250, then it reduced to 200, then it reduced to 100, then at 50, 25. At 25, all the animals have died. Okay, and at around 15 milligrams, the animals were drowsy, and then at around 8 milligrams per kg body weight, friends, many times blindly we take a solvent extract, and I'm sharing my real example, and I lost about I wasted about 30 lakhs, 35 lakhs on these experiments without knowing what is the kind of toxicity. And since then I mentioned to everybody, don't play with natural products the way we want. Just use the way the classical texts are mentioned. When the classical texts are not mentioned this as an alcohol extract, don't compare. If you are using alcohol extract, you do all the studies like what you do in drug development in modern pharmacology, and don't take it granted. So that's how you should. And I'm just sharing because I don't want to waste your time. I will be going to clinical research, and organizers can stop me anytime because I have a few more slides. Only I
Please,
complete.
please continue. Please continue, sir.
Yeah. So I'm just giving some of the examples. Like this is an antiviral study which we have done against SARS-CoV-2 virus. And thanks to Dr. Madhu Dixit in India, for the first time, we brought the your SARS-CoV-2 virus. So Dhimanji is aware of this, and we have studied. And in this particular study, we have used remdesivir. At that time, remdesivir was the standard control used in many studies. Therefore, we used. Today, people may debate. We have no point. We have treated these animals 5 days prior to induction of infection. Anutyl Nasya. The paper is on publication. Preprint is ready now. Anutyl Nasya was given. Again, the aqueous extract of Withania was given, and then remedies were given, 3 groups. And in the Anutela group also, we found a significant, statistically significant reduction in the viral load. That means your so-called spike protein, which is your ACE2 receptors on the lung epithelium, they are somewhere protected. This is how we can interpret today. When this, because no way we can study. This is a model which we have developed. We feel proud. The model is also going to be published and useful for next year. See, this is exactly what I wanted to highlight. We are designing rather we are accepting the models which are existing. We are not designing the models for us. So let us do it. This is a model which stands as an example for Ayurveda. We have not copied anybody. It was tough. And in this, we have another model. You have asymptomatic patients. So if you want to treat those asymptomatic patients who have lung pathology, all of a sudden collapsing and getting into ICUs and the critical care centers, how do you understand? So there is a hamster model which is having only the local lung infection, and one animal which is having one set of animals who are going to have systemic infection. And when we compare the body weight, the viral load is low. Of course, in Bethania, we have not seen much. Remdesivir is the highest. And next to remdesivir was Anutyl Nasya group. And their body weight has not come down. The control group where there was only infection, no intervention, the body weight has come down. That means it is suffering from the infection from the virus and is going to die. And then the spleen, we are seeing here also, spleen and the organs which are responsible for immunity, when we have studied, there is no change in their weight. That means they are protected. So it is a wonderful experience for us. And these kind of models are to be generated. This is one example I'm giving. Like sometime back, way back in 2004-5, I was working with Professor Maulik at AIMS, where we have developed our own model. I raised a question. It is oral high-fat diet-induced rat model, which is used for dyslipidemia studies. Okay. Now, my question was very simple. Your model is there for 3 months, and after 3 months you are sacrificing the animals. Every month you sacrifice a set of animals, and you'll see at what particular point of time your drug is working. That's fine. And we have given statins in one group as standard control. So my question was, how sure you are when these animals suppose were not fed with the intervention, both modern drug and Ayurveda drug, what will be happening? So he said, yeah, the good question. So we have taken double number of the animals and we have repeated, reversed the entire mechanism. Like we withdraw the drug, withdraw the diet. So one group without diet control, one group with the diet control, it continued. So the one which is taking the high fat diet was showing after the experiment period, there is a significant increase in the fats. The one which has come out of the high fat diet naturally has a reduction, but the one which has come out of statins doesn't have the kind of sustained activity like the Ayurvedic products. The advantage, see, we are not giving these advantages because you don't have the model of your own. You are copying. You are doing the cut paste job. I'm not an expert. Please don't take me as an expert, but to the extent possible, wherever I worked, I have developed my own model. Okay. And people will, once you publish it, people will accept it because it is science and it is up to you how to use your model. So again, immunomodulatory effect and all the parameters we have seen, and Th2 pathway and Th1 pathway activation and all. And you can study it through your animal experiments. Okay, and this is in vitro assay we have done, and cell line assay also we have established TNF alpha activity, IL-6 inhibition, and interferons. So we have a full battery of experiments, and then we have used a different cell line and to find out whether the same effect is seen or not, and anti-diabetic activity, because the comorbidities in some of the anti-diabetic animals induce the infection and find out whether this particular herb is useful for the comorbidities and or not. And in vitro PK studies now they are going on, are completed, and human PK studies will be going on. And one of the studies which were conducted at the Adabasis Foundation some time back have shown that the blood-brain barrier crossing effect has been documented, and this is a milestone once it is published. And drug-drug interactions I was mentioning, the drug-drug interactions were also done, and it's found to be safe. And only one thing you need, this is what I want to say, let us not unnecessarily poke into each of the areas. Let us get into the debate the way we need to. I'm taking the example of methotrexate. Somebody is receiving methotrexate for arthritis. So, if you want to treat this particular patient who is on methotrexate, what should be your approach? Very simple. Risk versus benefit analysis of methotrexate. What are the side effects? What are the benefits? Then go to the risk versus benefit analysis of your steroids and your natural steroids, which are the glucosterones. Okay. Now, what are the risks involved? Is endocrinal, metabolic, musculoskeletal, skin-related, immunological, gastrointestinal, cardiovascular, ocular, and CNS. All kinds of risks you are taking when you are putting a patient on steroids. Then what is the risk you have? Honestly, accept, yes, there may be gastric irritation, and mostly these days you get Navagugulu, which we don't mention to anybody. We have to mention. Shuddha clearly mentioned. If you take Gugulu prior to meal, it is going to cause Kushatva. If you take Gugulu after meal, it's going to cause Stulatva. Okay. And definitely Purana Gugulu and Nava Gugulu. Purana Gugulu is weight reduction, Nava Gugulu is again the weight enhancer. So let us agree, because we are getting only the Nava Gugulu in the market. Purana, in one context, I found, G.V. Satyavati mentioned, in her thesis, she worked on Gugulu. So, Dwarkanath ji told her that Gugulu should be 5 years old. Her experiments, very few people must be knowing, please note it down. And in one context, I found, I forgot, Niryasa shelf life is 5 years. Maybe that prompted Dwarkanath ji to use a 5 years old Gugulu. One experiment we started, let us see. And now from Gujarat, in November, friends, you will get the first set of roughly 500 metric tons of Gugulu the coming November, because the Gugulu under the development area is getting to be harvested for the first time after 12 years. Even if you get 100 grams per plant, these plants which we have identified are about 50 lakhs. So you'll get about 500 metric tons. So India is going to have for the first time the best quality of Gugulu, and it's something really amazing. Our secretary really helped in this endeavor. So coming back to the benefits of steroids, again benefits of Gugulu, we have advantage. So let us do this. Drug development is all about this. Treatment is all about this. Win with your logic and science. Don't live with sentiment. We are trying to live with our sentiment. Ayurved ने 2000 साल पहले बताया, before Christ, therefore accept it. No, it is standing correct even today. It is better than what you have with you. You have fire, I have pan. So what is your preference? Though if he is wise enough, he will prefer pan. We are pan, we are not fire. Wherever we are fire, let us not allow anybody to come into fire. So that's the thing. So then you prepare a table like this. the comparative advantage of modern versus Ayurvedic management. If you have modern treatment, take the treatment per se. This is very important. So take the low risk, average risk, high risk, and partial selective toxin inhibitors and all. So you'll come to know what are the advantages, disadvantages you have, and open it to the patient. He will be wise enough to select you. I'm telling you, friends, we will achieve our targets through our science than our sentiments. So this is how the approach should be going forward when you go for the drug developments. And this is my last part. I may take another 10-15 minutes on the clinical studies. So for clinical research again, Charaka has given this 10-point investigation. प्रकृतः विकृतः सारतः समानतः प्रमाणतः सात्विकः सत्वतः आहारशक्तः व्यायामशक्तः वयस्तः. All the 10 parameters if we have to investigate and select a subject. What else you want? It's highly difficult, therefore we are avoiding it. Otherwise, it's the best way. Then a 10-point format and a 12-point format by Vagbhata. Charaka and Vagbhata have given. Asmin dese jatam anaya matraya evam vidasya purushasya asmin kale evam pragato. You know this context in Nidana Sthana, where a dravya is to be examined, how it is to be examined. So this is the approach. Asmin dese jatam. Select the herb from the same geographical area. Very tough, therefore we are avoiding. And we blame this thing. I give one example to all of you. I've done a study and I am amazed about it. About 4 years back, we did this study. Trivrit Sukvirajnanam Shreshtam, except Kerala, where Trivrit Churna is available for their Panchakarma centers, you usually don't get any pharmacy manufacturing the Trivrit outside Kerala. So that amazed. And I inquired, neither in Kerala nor outside, this Trivrit is laxative. Take it with pinch of salt. If anybody comes to me, I will prove by giving it to a human being or giving it to outside. If it is some other thing other than your operculum tarpetum, I have no comments. If it is operculum tarpetum collected outside the geographic area which I am going to define, there are about 5-6 districts in Gujarat. In a particular vicinity, if you collect operculum tarpetum, then only it will be laxative. Otherwise, it is not. We have done. And two important components are missing in it. Okay? Your operculum acid will not be there in any other part of the country. So why asmin dese jatam? So you collect it from other side and you blame Ayurveda. It is unfair. Tell this to your modern counterpart. Whenever he is doing research and commenting adversely upon you, you tell him, friend, don't unnecessarily go to Vigruha Sambhashana. Sangruha Sambhashana is going to resolve the problem. Vigruha Sambhashana is going to waste our time. So salute his ignorance and continue our main job of working for Ayurveda than wasting our time in convincing people who doesn't understand science. So similar dosage pattern is very essential. So the similar pharmacogenics and have collected from the same season. So many things. Then Purusham Viksha is the concept which we have this base for your pharmacogenomics today. And again, in this, your mean, mode, median, all those things which you are using in your research methodology are going to really give confusion. Okay. You take an arithmetic mean where my height and weight may not be fitting into any of the readings. So by average weight, you will be administering, and I am in trouble. Same is the case with mode, same is the case with median. Therefore, Purusham Viksha. Look at the Pramana. Pramana of Charaka is an example, and this is beyond the scope of modern statistics. If you tell this to any statistician, he will be amazed. These measurements have been given for that individual. Swangushta Pramanena. Okay, that is important. The Anguli Pramana given in the Pramana context is for the individual. You take your Anguli, now I have done this, whether you take the breadth of your thumb or you take one internode of your finger, they are of the same size. You can just try. They're same. It's about roughly 3/4 inch. Anguli is 3/4 inch if you convert it into a SI system. So if you convert 84 inches, now you are given the square of your stomach. Why? Because the accumulation is here. You can't take the measurement of your back. Same is for the hips. You are given hips because the anterior part you can't take the measurement where the fat accumulation is less. Highly scientific. And since we cannot do all these things, it is laborious. We avoid our own what you call methodology, and we blame the system. Then otherwise you have ICH-GCP guidelines, international this thing, conference on harmonization, conference on harmonization, where the OECD guidelines and your Y schedule and all those stuff have come into picture. Okay, your phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 we have discussed in clinical trials. Whether many times randomized controlled clinical trials, as rightly mentioned by Professor Dhimanji, it's very tough every time to get into RCT, but it's not a hard and fast rule. You can still convince people with a black box design. Okay, so WHO agreed on that, and on the basis of your Chikitsa Sutra, like what Dr. Raman did for arthritis study from AVP Coimbatore. So on the similar lines, you can definitely develop your own methodology, your own design, study design, and you can develop your protocol. Your randomized controlled clinical trials, double-blind studies are always appreciated. And now today, fast-track research has emerged. If you look at COVID times, fast-track research is really appreciated. That's how we are HCQ. Though there are failures, let us not speak about failures. They're part and parcel of any research. Any new emerging condition and acute condition, you have to take that kind of risk. And that's why when you see the initial reports of ICMR, it is empirical usage. Even HCQ was mentioned as empirical usage. Hardly about 200 subjects data was available. They tried, they failed. Remedies were same thing. So doxycycline also same thing. But and even plasma therapy, latest addition to this. But again, they have their stats, and their approach is clear. Once they fail, they come forward and tell us it's not working. Are we going to do that? That is the fundamental question they ask. And let us come forward and say that we also will definitely express, like I mentioned in the previous in vivo study, we clearly mentioned ashwagandha doesn't have the similar antiviral property like this thing. And when we have studied Andrographis paniculata, Andrographis paniculata has shown the antiviral activity, which is completely comparable to remdesivir. But when we have isolated andrographolites and we tried, the activity has come down. This is going to add, rather strengthen the point what Professor Dhiman was mentioning. When you select a drug, you must be careful. You can't simply take an hydroalcoholic extract where your andrographolites are concentrated up to 40% also. Some of the samples have 40% andrographolites which are being exported. And on that basis, you cannot. Even if Philippines is using, they are using mostly the extract. So these are the eye openers for us. And we have done another study, which I want to share with you, like Reserpin. Ganna Senji was practicing this, which Rustumjal Vakil, who is a modern practitioner, took a lead, and he studied on this by extracting, and then published a paper from uh, so-called London, and he got the recognition as the man who treated hypertension. But in his work, they quoted Rustumjal Vakil and Sen Gupta. This is already there on record. So he's a co-author. He may not be the principal author, but he's co-author. Karna Sen was a co-author. So that's interesting. But the point here is, Reserpin has been withdrawn because of the arrhythmias. Again, the isolation has done the damage. if you look at the chemistry of Rauwolfia, it has asmoline, very minute concentration of asmoline. Now, asmoline is the counterbalancing anti-arrhythmic agent. Now we have isolated asmoline and separately using today it is as a anti-arrhythmic agent, and you have isolated reserpine. Like we do it now. Always I quote this example. Nature has given the beauty, steroidal, narcotic and non-narcotic compounds in one formulation, steroid and non-steroidal formulations in one compound, and one compound which appears to have all the side effects of steroids but doesn't have any steroids is steroidogenicity. The first one, the example I was quoting is Ifena. Papaver somniferum has steroidal, non-steroidal compounds. Non-steroidal is papaverin, steroidal, non-narcotic is papaverin, and narcotic is your morphine. Then the second example which I quoted is your Google. Along with Google students, you have other compounds also. Then the third example which I quoted, where the steroidogenicity, not a steroid compounds, is the Glycyrrhiza glabra. In one of our discussions, Professor Biman was also present in the early discussions when this was taken as one of the trial drugs for COVID. One statement from my side prompted the team to pick up Bullethi. Estimadu is present in 16 groups out of 50 groups of Chark Samhita Sutrasthana, 4th chapter. And it is having steroidogenicity, which is required for combating or controlling your cytokine storm. So we have a lot of fascinating things, provided you speak from their language. Don't change your concepts, change your language. Okay. So today, Russians, Chinese, Japanese, Europeans, they have not changed the language. They follow the medical text, technology text in the same language. But when they come to international scenario, they speak in English. Therefore, they're on the top of world and they have got the recognition required. So why don't we do that when we need not change our concepts? I feel there is nothing wrong. We should do it for the global importance. So basic steps in a clinical trial, study protocol and all that. Again, I want to skip a lot of this because I don't have time now. Uh, I want to just skip these things because I have mentioned these are the 10 golden rules. These are known for those who conduct clinical trials. These are the WHO mandate, ICH and GCP guidelines, and compliance and schedule Y. I will just go to the second part. When it comes to Ayurveda, you should have your own approach. Like CCRS has published the protocol related to clinical trials on the basis of the Prakriti assessment and all. And when you give the treatment, you can still plan individual approaches. Like just an example, don't take it as a final this thing, but it's an example. Like Vata Prakriti, Lakshmi Vilasas, Pitta Prakriti, Tali Sadi, Kapha Prakriti, Topala. You select your own this thing hypothesis and try to study. You need not follow. Then in the disease process where exactly you are interfering, whether you are interfering with the Nidana, whether you are interfering with the Purarupa state, whether you are interfering with the Rupa state, or Upashaya, or you are helping in the pathogenesis separation. So these are the stages where you select your own experiment and conduct. Okay. Then one example which I want to mention, like Maritadi Churna, when it is given in Vatajagrani mostly, if it is to be preferred for Pittajagrani and Kaphajagrani, we may get negative results. Okay. We cannot blame the system. We have to blame our prescription and we have to change it. So that's the example. And similarly, when you use Mahayoga's Google, for example, as an anti-inflammatory purpose, if you don't restrict the usage of rice curd and brinjal as mentioned in the text, you may have negative results. And when you have the pathya also, you may have the positive results or via media mixed results. So this is something what we have to mention. And the Anupana has its own role. And when you look at the Anupana of Mrityunjaya Rasa, in Ajinajvara, Nimbur Swarasa. In Vishmajvara, it is Krishna Jiraka and Buddha. And if it is Sannipada Jvara, Adraka. If it is Vata Jvara, is Takra. So really help us in giving the precise results. Suppose if we just take this tablet, ask him to consume, and tomorrow say Mrityunjaya doesn't work as it is in Sannipata Jwara, again it's a problem for us. So let us do that experiment properly, the study properly, and the example of other this thing is suppose you are giving ginger when a chemotherapy is going on. So optimum pH and low pH. The pH is also important. At optimum pH, it will be antibiotic. If it is given at a low pH, then it induces vomiting. So that's where we want to be very careful. Okay. So double-blind study I mentioned about it. I will just run through. Now I have taken a lot of time. I have to give time for the question answer session also. Integrated approach, evidence-based approach, what we talk about, I want to spend little time on this. Many times there is a conflict whether your R&D revelations are to be accepted as evidence-based. If that is evidence-based, then what about your Aptopadesha? So our conflict is here. Yeah, whether to accept Aptopadesha or Pratyaksha, because you have an experiment, you have to accept it, and text may say something. So there, I want to mention this. For example, I'm just giving about top 10 herbs which are being used by all of us. Now, none of us could prove whether there's a modern scientist or the Ayush-related scientist groups could not disprove any of the activities mentioned in the text. If Amalaki is mentioned in Rasana, we have proved it is having anti-aging activity. When Ashwagandha mentioned as aphrodisiac, we have established its effect. When Atmagupta mentioned in the Kampavata, we are establishing its activity. So what we have done, we are simply endorsing. Okay, we are endorsing those people who are more knowledgeable than us. Fair enough. I have not a word, but these are the examples. Now, when at least when these things are endorsed, so what is bad in accepting Aptopadesha above Pratyaksha? So, for the time being, till you disprove, my submission to everyone, whatever is mentioned in your traditional knowledge database as the Ayurveda Granthas, unless and until it is disproved, like I have given recently this debate when this Sida cardifolia is banned in US. I said it's rubbish because you have just taken the aerial part also in your experiment, and the aerial parts have this thing. Bala Mula is the useful part, and the roots doesn't have your ephedrine. So how can you ban? It's a blind approach. Like Bilva, we could save it. In Bilva, fresh leaves and unripened fruit, you have ethylene, which is a what you call objectionable compound, a toxic compound. Whereas in the Pakwa Bilva and the other parts, it is not there. So we should be very careful. So we can't attribute everything to whatever we assume, and that's very important. Now I will take you to discussion next 2-3 minutes. I conclude. Uh, okay, sorry. My discussion basically will be what are the current trends in R&D. Usual research and development is a routine approach. Now, your synchronization of the research and development is the major requirement, and the future trends are also to depend upon the development more and the research less. So the usual approach why research efforts in India are not that fruitful because most of the organizations, including our research councils, are research oriented. Of course, CCRS recently started commercialization. That's one good big thing. Otherwise, mostly our focus is research. So essentially, the development agency is required. So the industrial partnership or some outside collaboration is always required. Only DRDO is an exception where they have a development unit. Otherwise, mostly they are research institutes. So neither they are the priorities. What we are talking about, I want to say the applied research and innovative initiative. The fundamental research need not be applied every time, but fundamental research at one point of time will become applied. Let us not get carried away. I started with fundamental research, but I have not talked about it. At some point of time, it will be like the studies which are happening with the IGBT, where Parashar and other people, they are still working on Prakriti. Tomorrow, you may have a Prakriti-based Ayurvedic formulation for arthritis and diabetes. So that becomes applied once it is what you call commercially viable. So innovative initiatives, new dosage forms, Bahukalpam, Bahuvidam, Samparnam, Mogyam. But many times who put hurdles for any new, what you call, format. New formats are welcome. And Ayurveda was doing it and we stopped it. Let us get into new formats, technological innovations, and development oriented research. Okay, what should be our priority? You asked about priority. I simply say focus on your 10 lifestyle disorders. Don't focus on anything else for the next coming 10 years. So you'll be on the top of the world map. Then you have guidelines from WHO on traditional medicine and the methodologies of research. So therefore, I never wanted to again repeat it. All the methodologies are available. Only you can pick up and start using. And Ayush released their protocols for clinical trials, the guidelines for clinical trial protocols, guidelines for clinical trials in on 31st March 2013. And All India Medical Ayurveda developed a diabetes protocol. So we have guidelines and protocols separately. Guidelines you may not follow, protocol you have to follow. For research, you should follow the protocol, and to practice, mostly the guidelines will also help. And these are other TM traditional medicine protocols and guidelines available across the globe. Okay, people who are interested can get through. So I will go to my conclusion part. The conclusion is like this. Test any hypothesis against the textual reference, which is an aptopadesha, which is essential. If at all we want to say yes or no, we should have guts first. If text says something different from your observation, that is your pratyaksha, try to find the difference, then rejecting it. Okay? Now, I give few examples. These days, we are all considering Punarnava as Mutrala. But in the text, at least I have not come across. Ravi Naranji is there. He can correct me if I'm wrong. I did not find any reference, a single reference where in the classical text you find Punarnava as Mutra. Punarnava is Sothakni. So the problem is we have taken Boraiva diffusa as Punarnava, and the problem started. Shodhakni is this thing. Now, if you take that reference, your Sweta Punarnava is the original Punarnava. Okay, Triantima Porticastrum. And again, Arjuna. Where do you find Hrudya property in the Arjuna, in the text? No. Kashayarasa, Ushnavirya, Katuvipaka, it cannot be Hrudya. And no Prabhava is attributed to Arjuna so far. And we may be modern day Daruguna specialists who want to attribute. I have no comments on that. I leave it to the wisdom of the scholars. But only the Kshirapaka. In the same context, you find another example in Sharangadhara Samhita, Ashoka Kshirapaka. So in Rakta Pradara also, Ashoka is Kshirapaka, which is used in Rakta Prada. Otherwise, even Ashoka also you don't find with the same indication. So modern researchers are taking a ride on us because of our own ignorance and misinterpretations. As Ayurvedic specialists, we should guide them properly. And my Arjuna Shirpaka trial is going on in All India Medical Sciences. I feel proud. There, Professor Gautam Sharma is doing this. It will go for another 1 year on 300 post CABG subjects, where we have standardized the dose. Because what is the dose of Kshirapaka given in the text? Sarandara did not mention. So how do you fix the dose? So we have calculated how much quantity that will be coming out, and we have standardized, the age of Arjuna bark, and from that particular concentration we have converted, and it is praised. And that's how an institute like RNA Institute of Medical Sciences and a cardiothoracic surgeon who is the head of your Ayush, what do you call, Center of Excellence is conducting, and the two Ayurvedic doctors who are investigators in this particular project. And we have done the experimental studies. There is a significant difference between the Arjuna Kshirapaka treated and Arjuna Kashaya treated group. Arjuna Kashaya, or the aqueous extract of Arjuna, 1954 or 56, Colonel Chopra reported that it causes myocardial necrosis. Please read the Indigenous Drugs of India. I have this volume just behind me. You can see one almara in that. I have Indigenous Drugs of India by Chopra. He documented. We ignore those studies. So therefore, we become a laughing stuff. Which part of Arjuna to be used and how it is to be used, we should be clear. So there, the pratyaksha usually is an empirical approach. So the empiricism in the form of pratyaksha is to be countered by us, not everything. And then the manuscripts or the documented evidences are to be considered as the contemporary methods, and the Vaidya's experiences are to be explored while making new drugs, and industry's experience to be utilized in pharmaceutical research. So basis this ancient methodology and methods, we can emerge with new this thing. This is the process usually given the cycle when I was in industry. The concept, whether coming from R&D or the marketing team, gets freezed, and then your Biodiversity Act related, other regulatory drugs and cosmetics act related issues will be addressed, reassess and finalize the formulation, then do the stability, then do the efficacy evaluation, both preclinical and clinical. Without stability, if you go for it tomorrow, the formulation may not be stable. So you will be spending more time on the preclinical. So then do the clinical, and that's how your drug development will be complete. And just I wanted to share the Dhanvantari stamp and first day cover released by Nepal government in 1977. And with this, I conclude my presentation today. I thank Vishwa Ayurveda Parishad for giving me this opportunity and giving me patient hearing. I think I completed within the given stipulated period of time. If I have exceeded, I apologize the chair for the extended time. I have a lot of points, but I could limit myself to things which I know, I experienced, than giving you a theory. So there are many learned scholars like Ravi Narayan and others who are in the teaching institutes. I am not from teaching institute. I'm like a farmer in the field, not the agriculture officer in the job. So I might have committed mistakes, ignore, and I'm ready to accept the inputs from the audience, and I want to interact. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Shastri. Dr.
Thank you,
Komal,
sir.
please.
Yes, sir, please. Okay, sir.
No, you please continue.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, such an eye-opening session of yours. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing the valuable and elaborative information on the topic. You explained every point very precisely, and I hope that it is going very useful to all of us. We really feel blessed having you here. Thank you again, sir. I think sir lecture on the topic create query in the participants' mind related to the topic, which is quite natural. So moving on, we have a question answer session. I would like to invite Dr. Shubham Maheshwari, JR2, Panchkarma Department, SGAC Varanasi. Please, Dr. Maheshwari, will take the session question answer session forward. Thank you so much. Dr. Shubham Maheshwari, please come and conduct the session of question answers.
Dr. Komal, you can continue until Shubham Maheshwari appeared over here. I think he's.
Shubham, please unmute yourself. You are looking mute.
Yes, now he is available.
Shubham, please
Shubham,
unmute
just
yourself.
switch on your video also, Shubham.
Shubham, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, ma'am,
Okay.
for giving me such an opportunity. And a special thanks to Dr. Shastri sir for such a wonderful session. And we glad to hear you. And we hope it will be very helpful to all of us. We explained so many things very clearly, but there are still some questions in chat box. So let's ask you. And the first question from Professor Anil Shukla sir. He wants to know, is aqueous extract of ashwagandha is as effective as hydroalcoholic extract?
Sastry sir, please unmute yourself. You are muted. Dr. Sastry, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, actually the administrator muted me. Good. Anilji, yes, it is. See, I'll tell you again. You should ask me the question in a little different way. Otherwise, my answer is straightforward yes. Because in ashwagandha you don't have much of the problem. It is the individual species specific this thing. Usually in the industry, it is a 70-30, 80-20 kind of water is to alcohol ratio which is used. Never it is alcohol more and water less, most of the cases. So as a practice, 80-20 or 70-30 they taken, mostly it makes no difference because all the polar compounds will be coming into your water and non-polar will be getting into alcohol. If at all anything is there, that will also come. But as you know, your vitalites concentration, which needs to be minimum 0.25% through your HPLC method, will be achieved if your sample is good. So the biological activity will be same.
Thank you, sir. I hope Professor Anil sir has got their answer. And the next question from Dr. Tanuja. He wants to know some light on concept of drug research on Bhasma as described in classical regards.
Bhasma is Bhasma. You want me to speak about Bhasma of Charak Samhita? We ignore one important aspect. Bhasma is there in Charak Samhita in the Vanaspatika Dravyas. Sharakshiram Palam Pushpam Bhasma Tailani Kantakaha. Sharaha Kshiram Palam Pushpam. So somebody should tell me what is the difference in the Kshara of Charaka, because Charaka never mentioned about Kshara, which is to be prepared by adding limestone. It is Shushruta who mentioned usage of limestone while making Kshara. And it is Vagbhata. Even Shushruta did not tell how much quantity. It is Vagbhata who has mentioned 150, 160. Okay. So burning of herb was also considered as a prayojanga, and it is Bhasma according to Charak was ash of your any herb. So ash value, whatever you come across, that was also there in Charak Samhita. So that is the Bhasma. So it is a Vanaspatika Dravya. But when it came to your Rasashastra, many times we have given a misnomer by equating Rasashastra with alchemy. Let us stop doing it. That is the fundamental mistake. We use equating terms. Okay. So let us stop using equating terms. If somebody asks me what is Bhasma, so my answer will be it is a hydrophobic, lyophobic colloidal, which is in a nano state and which is in a ligand form. This ligand may be an inorganic ligand or organic inorganic ligand. Mostly, it is an inorganic organic ligand. So that kind of definition. Otherwise, Bhasma means ash. Over. Now, many of the your mineral products cannot become ash just like that. Or otherwise, we say the oxides. Like I used to say, I argued with some scientist also. Now, Swarna Bhasma is aram oxide. He told me, sir, gold can never become oxide, and even if it becomes oxide, it's unstable. And after I started closely working on the Swarna Bhasma, I realized, and all your Swarna Bhasma, if you are clever enough, if you keep your wisdom away, the textual Swarna Bhasma, at the price of lead, you can sell gold. At the price of Hingul and Rasandura, you can sell gold. Because the process with which, especially your Swarnapatra. On the internet, I find a lot of videos where people mesmerize you with Swarnapatra. Friends, please take it that they are doing 100% adulteration of Ayurveda, or at least Swarna, because they claim we prepare the best Swarna. Test the gold from that. You get the least gold in those samples which have been made with Swarnapatra. But we are considering this is the best. Is any text mentioned that the Swarnapatra, Swarnabhasma is the best? No. The problem is our interpretation again. So coming back to this, Rasa Shastra is a field of science which is a triangle formed between three arms. One arm is your ligand chemistry, second arm is colloidal chemistry, third arm is nanotechnology. The area falling between these three arms is Rasa Shastra. Okay. Otherwise, your Rasayana becomes chemical. Okay. The Ministry of Rasayana is there, na? When you write, is the Rasayana is your Rasayana? Petroleum and chemicals. The Ministry of Petroleum and Chemicals, they write it as Rasayana. So do you want to call Rasayana as chemical or Rasayana is your antioxidant? So the two translations are spoiling. Let us use the technical terms as technical terms. Today, beriberi, which is a Simhalese word, stands as the technical term. Anybody knows what is the meaning of beriberi? I cannot do. It is a Simhalese word. Like alkali. Do you think alkali is a Greek word? Alkali is a Persian word. Everything is ash, is alkali, the Persian word, which has become alkaline. So we are all using it. So similarly, the terminology, technical terms are to be used. Use it as bhasma and define it as bhasma. Don't give any interpretations. That's how I want to mention this.
Sir, another question from Dr. Ankur. He wants to know that there are some new dose like Seraform, which is not mentioned in our classics. Then how to perform classical preclinical study and industrialize in these type of untested dose?
It is syrup, na? You are talking about syrup?
Yes, sir.
See, it is there. See, unfortunately, we have not understood our text properly. What is Avaleha? Please tell me. क्वाथादीनां पुनः पाकात् रस घनत्वंसा रसक्रिया सलेहो अवलेहस्य. See, actually, leha and avaleha were very simple. I'm just divulging, please bear with me. If you understand that concept, then you understand syrup or anything else. So, why they made avaleha? So, leho avalehasya. So, there, if you concentrate the kwadha again, it becomes rasakriya. At the end of the chapter, please, after this webinar, please open the Sarangdar Samhita, go to the Avaleha Prakarana, read the last 5 shlokas. You will come to know that there are Avalehas without Buddha, Madhu, and Sarkara. That means they are pure extracts. I don't know how they managed with that bitterness. Any extract will be really bitter. Since people cannot consume the bitter, okay, they were adding some prakshepa, which are spices. They were adding the base, that is your syrup. Okay, as base they have added jaggery, as base they have added this thing. One way or other, depending upon your thickness, conversion, once you have done the inversion happens between 65 to 70 to 70%, something like that, of these sugars. So whenever you test the total sugars. That's the reason. Once the inversion happened, whether you call it as avaleha, whether you call it as anything, for me as a pharmaceutical engineer, I define it as syrup only. You may give a definition, but there is a standard definition. When you are using the base of sugar or jaggery, your avaleha is a syrup-based formulation. Only the concentrations have varied. You have added more water to make it little thin to swallow. So in that, now I come to your point. That's why whenever you give me a syrup, I will first calculate what is the human dose. And to that extent, we will see that the same dose is given to the animal. in the animal experiments. So you extrapolate only the actives, not these things. Some cases actually, that's why test the original extract, not the syrup. Once the finished product is also there, sometimes many companies they don't fancy this thing because it is cost. If you go for simple animal experimentation, it costs about 20 to 25 lakhs. Okay, it's not that easy. So then, along with the extract, you will be doing the formulation. Final product also will be tested. Okay. So friends, please don't think that syrup is an alien. This thing it was there in the context of Avalaya. That's why your Panchamita Kashaya Kalpa stands final. Started from Kwadha. So you have added Prakshepa. You have added ghee sometimes. You have added honey sometimes. You have added sugar sometimes. So the concept is Ayurveda. Let us not forget this.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt because there are some time limitations and Professor Acharya is still in his office. So now we are concluding this question hour.